I always thought that therapy is for everyone, and now I don't think so. I think there are different methods for different people, and you cannot just say one thing that fits for everyone. And from my experience, I think an opinion or an advice that is a complete but complete opposite to your stance is the one that's gonna push you the most. Hey everyone, I wanted to look at a video with you from Chris Williamson from his podcast The Modern Wisdom about why you are addicted to personal development. For me, this topic is, I would say, personal, but also like very important for modern lifestyle because we are, I would say, addicted to the self improvement, self development, to always better ourselves, to never be satisfied with ourselves. And we don't know even why. So I'm pretty curious what Chris is going to tell us. What new wisdom are we going to learn? Okay, let's go to it.
Problem with how we all take advice when pursuing personal development, as far as I can see. Guidance doesn't sculpt us into something new, it exaggerates what we already are. The pattern is almost cruel. The people who least need the medicine are the ones most likely to overdose on it, while the ones who need it desperately are immune. So, another way to think
Again.
doesn't sculpt us into something new, it exaggerates what we already are. The pattern is almost cruel. The people who least need the medicine are the ones most likely to overdose on it, while the ones who need it desperately are immune. So, another way to think about it would be advice doesn't land evenly. It finds the path of least resistance, and it tends to be absorbed by people who already lean in its direction.
That's definitely true. Because, for example, when you give someone advice, there's basically Czech saying, I'm from the Czech Republic, and they have a saying that basically komu není rady, tomu není pomoci, which you would translate jak to whom you cannot give advice, you cannot help. And it basically means that if the advice doesn't stick, that you cannot really help that person. Or I know what he's saying, that when you give someone advice and it already sticks, then the advice was pointless because the person is on a journey, on a way in a certain direction, and the advice is on that direction. When you give an advice in the opposite direction, then that person doesn't really conform in it.
For instance, the post-Me Too instruction, don't be pushy with women, made conscientious and anxious men even more timid, while the guys that were steamrolling boundaries still didn't take any heed. The prescription to just work harder is devoured by an insecure overachiever who's already bleeding effort into every crack of their day, while the genuinely lazy person coasts past it unchanged. The men should open up more lesson is swallowed whole by the sensitive, expressive guys, while the stoic boomer who equates vulnerability with weakness ignores it completely. And the call to take more responsibility encourages the ones who already think it's their fault to carry even more of the load, while the ones who constantly point the finger elsewhere never change.
True.
A TLDR would be people who really need to hear advice often don't notice, while those who could do with the opposite message will take it as gospel. And
yeah, I would definitely say that we really need to take advice in every direction. And it's often, I think Jordan Peterson said that the thing we need the most are in the places in which we the least want to look at, or something like that. And I think it's definitely true because from my experience, the advice or the talks I had with people that were really uncomfortable, really not my style, maybe too pushy, too aggressive, or not like aggressive, but too, because I would say I'm pretty sensitive. So those conversations that put me in a different situation, and I got I got to see a different aspect of a certain journey, then I could change. You can only change when you want to change, surprisingly. And if you want to keep your ways, then you will never change.
You could call these people advice hyper responders, and history and myth are full of them. So Icarus was already reckless, intoxicated by freedom and glory, and his father Daedalus told him to keep to the middle path. Don't fly too high or too low. But Icarus exaggerated the part that matched his impulse, the one that he already had. He soared higher and higher until the wax melted and he fell into the sea. Don Quixote was already romantic, imaginative, and desperate for purpose. When he read too many tales of knights, he didn't just enjoy them as fiction, he treated them as instruction. The lesson to be noble and brave was amplified into absurdity until he was charging at windmills and humiliating himself.
Yeah, I would say we all have some seeds, some aspects to us of our personality, and any advice we hear, or it can be even with political opinions, anything you hear, you filter from your perspective and you keep what you already believe in.
Even the Buddha, before enlightenment, was already austere and obsessed with self-mastery, and as a young ascetic, he followed the prescription of self-denial so literally that he nearly starved himself to death, only later realizing the guidance had become poison and creating the middle way to correct course. Why does this happen? Well, people filter advice through their existing traits, so it amplifies predisposition rather than correcting imbalance. We've got this bias. We're already moving in the direction that we were previously. We all want to be good. So we over-index the guidance that flatters our self-conception as conscientious, virtuous, and hardworking. But maybe the most influential thing is the fact that instructions which bite deepest are the ones that match our inner fears. The anxious man doesn't just hear, "Don't be pushy." He feels that it confirms the fear that any move he makes is already too much. The sensitive man doesn't just hear, "Open up more." He feels it confirmed the worry that he's emotionally inadequate even when he's already oversharing. The insecure overachiever doesn't hear, "Just work harder." He feels that it confirms the suspicion that he's never enough.
Yeah, I think these advice or these things always fuel our own inner fears or our shadows. And it's really hard to battle with them because there's nothing more frightful than fear. If you think about it, fear is a primal thing from fire, I don't know, social exclusion. Fear is so basic, so ingrained in us that we cannot get rid of it, because if you get rid of fear, you get rid of us or even life.
The self-blamer doesn't just hear, "Take more responsibility." He feels it confirms the fear that he's guilty even when he isn't. The trouble is that good counsel, when misapplied, can be worse than bad counsel or none at all. The resistant ignore it, while the receptive overdo it. And the net effect is that imbalance gets amplified, not corrected. Self-improvement doesn't distribute like medicine. It distributes like alcohol. The ones who should have...
Yeah, the addictive ones are always gonna get hooked up. That's true. That's true, because when somebody feels insecure, when somebody feels inadequate, they will lean into self-development. They will lean into this aspect that I need to work on myself. I need to better myself. That's a really good thought. Yeah, I really like it.
Stain are drunk on it, while the ones who could do with loosening up don't even sip. The problem isn't a lack of advice. It's the inability to tell when guidance is seductive because it confirms your existing tendencies, like your biases, your flaws, and your fears. Much advice doesn't balance us. It exaggerates us. It makes the disciplined more rigid, the sensitive more fragile, the responsible more burdened. The trick is not discovery, but discernment. not hearing more, but knowing when to stop listening. And this is one of the big problems, I think, with blanket advice. And it's one of the reasons why this year more than ever, I've caveated, I think, to a degree. I've learned the fallibility of one-size-fits-all advice. There's some things
True.
that...
It's like this, for example, I always thought that therapy is for everyone, and now I don't think so. I think there are different methods for different people, and you cannot just say one thing that fits for everyone. And from my experience, I think an opinion or an advice that is a complete but complete opposite to your stance is the one that's gonna push you the most.
For more people are right. Being in bed for 8 hours a night, having a consistent sleep and wake time, not drinking too much, having friends around, etc., etc. But when you get to you should work harder, or you should open up more, or you should be less pushy with women, well, that's actually really specific, because I need to know a lot about your behavior to work out whether that's actually true. And if you are already doing a thing, it's likely that something which confirms your biases is going to push you to do it more. Oh, I knew I was right. That makes you feel good. Or you have a fear about a thing, which is usually the genesis of a lot of these feelings in any case. Oh, I knew that was too much for women. I should not, I must not. Or you were shy, or you were timid, or you were already working so hard because you think that you're not enough. So something which reinforces you're not enough because you're not working hard enough. It's like, oh, yes, I knew it was a piece of shit. I knew that I should work harder. It's vicious. And this is... It's not a universal rule, but it's pretty fucking close. Advice hyper-responders, I think, create a kind of...
I think everyone is basically advice hyper-responder, because everyone takes, to a certain degree, different types of advice to themselves. If you say to someone that you're a piece of shit, or if you say to someone you're great, everybody is going to respond differently, but everybody is going to respond to their own disposition.
Like cognitive echo chamber of one, like just one person only letting in bits of advice and guidance which reinforce their fears, and they are already predisposed to agree with because it backs up the sort of behavior that they've been doing all along.
And then I think you create this comfort bubble that, of course, I knew I was lazy. I knew I was a piece of shit. I knew I was inadequate. I knew that my life didn't matter. That's the danger, I think, when you are not exposed to different ideas.
I think this is a big deal. And I think that line at the end about being less about discovery and more about discernment, to me, makes a lot of sense, because there is an unlimited amount of content that you can find online. And if you have this bias to find things which confirms your fears and reinforces your existing biases, it's like going through the internet or going through advice and books and information with a set of blue light blockers on, where anything that is certain colors will come through and anything that is other colors will not. So you see confirmation bias. It's a personal development confirmation bias.
Yeah, it's
would be
like
another way to look
political
at it.
stuff, as I said.
I like it. I think it's a big deal. And it also explains why people become such sort of single-minded evangelists for a lot of the ideas that they follow. Because not only is
I never understood how can, for example, be someone left or right. How can someone be like pure leftist, pure rightist, or how can someone believe just in one thing? Life is so complex. Life is so weird, so magical, so beautiful, so tragic. I don't understand how can you have one opinion on a certain thing. One thing I thought of, it's maybe 5 years ago or something like that, is that if you have a problem and you have a one solution or one thing to say about it, it's wrong, because you can always have more solutions or more things to say, more angles on it, more points of views. Life is hard and complex, so don't be close-minded.
It's something that they found, which they think works for them. But it feels deeper than that. It feels resonant in a way that's existential, because they already had this. They already kind of felt this thing, and this is now amplifying their set point, the position that they were coming into this situation with. And then, of course, they're going to be ardently sort of be a flag bearer for this position. Not only is it basically where they were previously, but it's now being confirmed by somebody else's. Oh, I knew that thought I had about myself, it wasn't just me. I knew that I was too much, or I knew that I needed to work harder. I knew that I was not sharing enough and I needed to more. So yeah, advice hyper responders. If you
I really like this video. I thought it's gonna be this simplistic or naive, not naive, but I didn't expect much from it, but I really, really like it. I think from me, the main takeaway is not that there are advice responders and non-advice responders, that there are just certain people who respond to advice. I think that everybody responds just to different kind of advice. And if you want to grow, if you want to learn, if you want to achieve, if you want to be successful in life as much as possible, not just in a materialistic way, but in like spiritually or psychologically, then you need to expose yourself to as many different ideas, as many different things, as many different objects or something in your life. Just expose yourself to life. If you see Andrew Tate, just watch his video. I don't think I agree with anything he ever said. One time he said Czech Republic is beautiful, Prague is beautiful, and that the USA is shit compared to that. I agree with that. But these are the things. So expose yourself to different ideas and challenge them. You have to challenge yourself every single day. If you go to the gym, then you challenge yourself at the gym. So why wouldn't you challenge yourself psychologically or mentally? Let's look at the comments. I'm pretty curious. People filter advice through their existing traits. It amplifies the predisposition rather than correct the imbalance. Yeah, funny how many people rely on advice when they already know what to do. Yeah, there's another thing with self-development is that we focus on it, we kind of dwell on it, and we don't really improve. We just read the books, listen to the podcasts, but don't really change ourselves. Luckily, I was smart enough to realize I was overdosing. Yeah, don't overdose on self-development. Yeah, so many good quotes. That's definitely true. Yeah, Chris definitely said many great things. Yeah, people don't need blanket advice. They need empowerment and encouragement to find their own way. I think that's the thing. They need encouragement, as I said, to expose themselves, to just go into the world and fight. Fight your ideas. Fight other ideas. Fight yourself, fight others. Not literally. Yeah, you can read the other comments if you want. So yeah, I think that was a great video. I think Chris really said many great things. What do you think about self-improvement? Do you take advice from others? And if yes, what are they? Do you feel encouraged or discouraged by them? And do you expose yourself to other ideas? If not, then why? Let me know. And as always, keep it going, guys.